Hello, everyone. Welcome back to coverage of Eternal Weekend North America. Riley Knight joined by Noah Walker. We are getting underway with our final round of Swiss for the day. A reminder, of course, however, that we will be back tomorrow, and we hope to have your company then as we go ever closer towards our top eight. Noah and I will be back tomorrow as well to walk you through that. So mark your dance cards because the action isn't over for some time yet. Anyway, right now, we're going to get stuck into round number 9. Before we do that, a quick word from our sponsors. We are enormously appreciative to both Card Titan and to Game Genic this weekend for supporting Eternal Weekend. You can use code Eternal Weekend 2023 for 10% off your order at cardtitan.com. And you can get a similar amount of value from Game Genic. Eternal Weekend 2023, 10% off your order this weekend. So head over to Card Titan's website, head over to Game Genic, and see if there's anything there you want to snag. And you'll get a 10% discount on either of those orders for your trouble if you do so. So thanks once again to Card Titan. Thanks to Game Genic for supporting Eternal Magic. It is very much appreciated. Thank you so much for being here for Eternal Weekend. We're going to have a look at the standings now, Noah. We now only have 3 players with perfect records. Kathleen, who is unstoppable, 8-0. She cannot be stopped. Unbeatable here.
Crusher.
I've already
Cradle
checked
control.
in with our Grixis Delver player Jay earlier on today. We watched him win, and Griffin as well just got done beating Theo Jung. So these 3 players look to be in really, really good shape here. We're not going to be watching any of them this time around. We are going to be heading down the standings a little bit. Some other familiar faces that you may recognize. Brian Coval, Eternal Specialist here. No, this is a name that many people will be familiar with.
Yeah, I mean Brian Coval really, staying true to his brand, just crushing these Eternal formats. Really prestigious Eternal Weekend player. I think what he's 7, 8 top eights locked up lifetime. So really, really, really solid stuff.
Just a true end boss of these tournaments here. I think we were told earlier, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think we were told earlier that Brian is also still in the running for the Vintage Top 8 event as well.
Yeah, I think he's locked up. Yeah, something like that. Maybe he locked up top 8 for Vintage and
Or
then
even
still in
locked
the
it
running
up, so
here.
double
Yeah,
queuing, just the casual double
just
queue.
for fun. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
just showing us why he is so good.
All right, on the other side of the battlefield, Avi here on Boros Initiative. And it looks like we're going to see a 4-drop here on turn number 2. And to the surprise of no one, it is Seasoned Dungeoneer. This is one of the key cards in this initiative deck. Able to provide ongoing incremental value after being cast. Doesn't look like much on the face of it, but it's quite clearly enough for an entire archetype to be spawned around this mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, you get to go, enter the dungeon right off the bat, get a little bit more value every single turn as the game goes on. And I mean, the 4-cost 3/4 might not look very good, but it also fetches up a land and then has some pretty relevant text on it too. So it is a really, really strong card.
Yeah, whenever you attack, target attacking cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard gains protection from creatures until end of turn, and it explores. So a lot of value to be had from this one creature here. On the other side of things, Brian Sultai Beans, a control deck. I think it's fair to say. Describe this one as.
Yeah, I'd say much less typical control deck. We're used to seeing a lot of these 4-color control decks, 5-color control decks a lot. I really, really like Brian's list, though. He's kind of decided, hey, I think that the most important aspect of these control decks is the Up the Beanstalk, is the Murktide region, is the Orcish Bowmasters. So actually, Murktide, a really interesting one. You don't really see that a lot of times in these lists. You'll see Uro be like the big winner. But it looks like Brian decided that with Up the Beanstalk, Murktide region kind of gets a little bit more value for you. And just kind of using that as his win condition. Other than that,
So
it's
Brian,
pretty typical. A little weird to see
Brian
2 days, but yeah.
sacrificing his Orcish Bowmasters here into the Seasoned Dungeoneer in order to venture into the Undercity as well to take the initiative, and so picks up a basic land for his troubles here after having done that. So now he has the initiative. I imagine for not very much longer, as Avi will be able to attack. Oh no, Fatal Push. Nice. Okay, Fatal Push with Revolt enabled takes down the 4-drop. And Brian, off of that basic, is able to cast Up the Beanstalk. Nice little turn there for Brian. That went very well for him.
The attack make even more sense, right? Like he really wanted to venture into the dungeon himself, and then it also ended up turning on his Fatal Push. And who's to say if it even had a land for this Beanstalk? So good stuff there from Brian.
All right, another seasoned dungeoneer here. So the initiative now with Avi, who continues to head further and further into the Undercity.
What land did Avi just play?
Oh,
It's just a basic.
It's the new one, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's like brand new
Mm,
from LCI.
just the swag coming in, just the legacy players and their swag, man. It makes me sick.
It makes
We
me sick. It's
we didn't even
disgusting.
we didn't even mention Brian's mana base. Like, just
Oh yeah,
come on.
all black bordered duels. Got that that is that the beta or even an alpha island there as well.
Yeah,
Oh boy,
I think it might be beta, but yeah,
oh boy. Yeah, that mountain is one of the new ones from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
that's super cool. I like that
Yeah,
art.
yeah, they're pretty sweet. I do remember a time. I know we've had a lot of boomer chat today, but hey, there's a lot of boomers watching, right? They'll be
Yeah,
eating
this
this
one's
up.
for
They'll
the
love it.
boomers.
So when I started playing, a friend of mine, Callum, right? He was like, "Oh, I heard you started playing Magic." I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, I used to play years ago back in the old Zendikar block. I started playing in Absent Restored." He's like, "I think I've still got some old cards." And I'm like, "Dex the Mind Sculptor, maybe?" No. He hands me just a shoebox full of essentially just junk, right? Like draft chaff.
Yeah.
But you know what was in there? Whole bunch of full art Zendikar basics, right?
Oh yeah,
And this was back when they were the only full art basics apart from like the unglued, unhinged ones, right? So I rock up this absolute scrub at FNM the next week, right? Swagging out like you wouldn't believe because I'm the only one. I got my awful, terrible 67 card deck, but I've got these premium basics in it. These days, kids don't know what it's like. There are full art
exactly
basics all over the place. Back in my
exactly.
day, Noah, we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to get one full art basic in our decks. And these days, these kids, they've got their set boosters, they've got their collector boosters, they're drowning in the things. They
I
don't
know what
understand
you're
what it's like.
saying. I
Yeah.
know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I remember Bucket Island. You know that island that looks like it's
Oh,
like,
dude, Bucket Island.
yeah, Bucket Island fire, Veronique
Uh,
Mountain fire.
yep,
It's just only the true OG boomers are really gonna appreciate those arts.
yep.
So you love to see that. Oh,
Um,
I think this is a monkey coming
is that
through.
this is a
Monkey
hard cast
beats.
Simian Spirit Guide? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's beats by Monkey here, as we see a Grey Ogre cast in a Legacy tournament. You love to see it.
yeah. And I
You
mean,
love to see it.
we missed the exchange the last turn, but Avi like playing a pedal, tapping out like for a fourth Earlingus, and then Brian just being like, "Yeah, I guess I'll spell pierce that."
Yeah, feels terrible.
So yeah, he just like,
Feels terrible to get pierced.
yeah, Brian just over here like, "Yeah, thank you for letting me like venture in like enter the dungeon. Like that was just
Mm,
so kind of you.
that
Like
was very
you
nice.
really didn't have to."
Yeah, it looks like he's a long way further. I think Brian is represented by the black die there. Avi still stuck all the way up in the forge, while
Yeah.
Brian's down in the catacombs. Does he have the? Where's the 4-1? Is that already gone?
Uh, wait,
Or are
sorry.
they looking for the? Is that what the judge has gone off to find now? A
Oh, I
4-1
think
black
so.
skeleton?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, the judge can be. I'm so,
We're in the
do we
waiting
have
room.
it? Do we have it? Oh, the 4-1 Skelly boy. Let's
Oh,
get bony.
dang. That one's gonna be hard to beat. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait, is it the official skeleton? I'm going to be a lot less impressed if it isn't. No, it's not. It's not the correct token. It's not
Oh,
the correct token. No, it's not. The 4-1
damn.
skeleton looks very cool. Looks like sort of Assassin's Creed type hood on it. It's got like a dagger and stuff. Nah, nah. I'm less impressed. I don't know what that is. What is that? Like a Juggernaut token or something? Ridiculous.
Maybe a golem. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Oh, this is a murderous cut that we're putting on top with our Mystic Sanctuary with 2 up the beanstalks in play. All right, I'm sold.
Wow.
Brian's
All
deck
right.
is nice.
Yeah,
You
two
don't have to
copies.
say anything more than that.
2 copies of Murderous Cut.
Oh,
One day, Wizards will print a Delve card that isn't just really good in some
exactly.
situations, but
Today's
not
not
this
that
day.
day. Mm-hmm.
Today's not that
Exactly.
day. Here is Murderous Cut, destroy target Simian Spirit Guide, draw 2
Yeah.
cards, dude. Let's go. Oh,
I'm
huge. All right, draw 2.
I'm sold.
Yeah,
Brian
yeah.
convinced me that's all it took. Yeah, I'm like looking at his list. I'm like, huh, like really, really interesting list. Like I'm not really understanding like why he didn't play Uro. Murderous cut. He's like,
Yep.
look, I'm gonna play Murktide Regent in my deck. I've decided that's already my plan with these up the beanstalks. What's the next best thing with Murktide Regent? Murderous
Mm.
cut. Be able to grow it further like after it's already in play with other instant sources in the graveyard, removing those with the delve on the murderous cut, and then draw extra cards with these up the beanstalks, and it's
Yeah.
a solid removal spell. So it just
Oh,
makes a lot of sense.
Uro's hot garbage, man. It doesn't draw any
Exactly.
cards off of Up the Beanstalk. It draws 0
Exactly.
cards off of Up the Beanstalk, right? And also it eats away at those cards you need to delve away your Murderous Cut. Terrible. I don't know why they banned
Exactly.
it. Unban Uro in every format.
Unban arrow. Yep. Up the beanstalk. Superior.
All right, we have hit the Throne of the Dead 3. Reveal the top 10 cards of your library. Put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters. It gains hexproof until the end of your next turn, or until your next turn. Sorry. And what are our choices here? I see an Orcish Bowmasters. I see a Murktide Regent, and it is a choice between those two. Looks like it's going to be the Regent here.
Yeah, that's not very bad. Brian just very thankful again to just be venturing through this dungeon this whole game.
Mm. Yep, Avi's done it twice, but the initiative has been seized by Brian, and he's gone all the way through to the Throne of the Dead 3. So that's done a lot of work for him. A lot of work here. And now Avi's sitting on a whole lot of not much. 1 card in hand here for him.
Certainly
And
not
look at this.
ideal.
Look at Brian's hand, dude.
Embarrassment of riches.
10,000 counterspells. And the Orc Army heads in for lunch once again.
We're back in the dungeon.
And back over to Avi now, who plays a land and passes. That plateau, not doing a whole lot. And Brian thinking, oh, where do I want to go here?
So no basics left to search for. That makes sense. See, I bet Brian's playing a respectable amount of basics. Oh, one basic land. Okay, see, it's different. See, when you play one basic land in your Delver decks, it's kind of like a catch-all. Like you fetch it up early, and then you play a Delver, and then like on basic. When you play one Delver, or when you play one island in your control decks, it's like more of a concession to like I'm gonna be playing a bunch of lands this game. So like, yeah, sure, you're gonna be able to kill my other lands, but like it's always something I can fetch up on turn one and like pump or something. Like he also has like 2 copies of your Innerfield, so it makes a little bit more sense to me here. Like that's acceptable. That one is theory
That one,
approved for me. Yeah,
right.
that
That
one's
one
fine.
gets the Noah Walker, to the much coveted Noah Walker tick of approval when it comes to
Yeah,
mana-based construction. Well,
exactly.
Brian absolutely tore poor old Avi apart there from go to woe. That was an absolute show of force here from the Sultai player. And so now Avi has to hit the sideboard, try to get himself back into this game after going down in game number 1. He does have 3 copies of Magus of the Moon. What are your thoughts on that card in this matchup, just to mess up what Brian's got going on with his mana base?
I mean, totally super powerful. Like as I said, only one basic land. So if you can resolve a Magus of the Moon for Avi before Brian is able to have like the black source up for a fatal push or something like that, or like uh, I guess there's also these murderous cuts that he could have up. There's not too many. Like it looks like there's what two fatal push, 2 murderous cut, 2 Shoulder's Edict, and then some like counter spells. Those are his only really good answers. So I think that is going to be one of Avi's best ways to apply pressure.
Because Sultai players these days, they've got no respect. They've got no respect.
Oh yeah,
Brian is playing Witherbloom Command, not Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay, old news. Abrupt Decay, put it straight in the bin. We're playing Witherbloom Command. Talk to me about this card. Why is this card seeing some play here? Because it is a, well, it is what we diplomatically describe in the coverage business as an interesting card.
yeah. I think that it just comes down to there being enough non-creature permanents that you're going to want to kill that cost 2 or less, and then also getting some value out of it otherwise. I think that's basically where Brian like devoted that slot to, is like, yeah, I want to be able to answer non-creature non-land permanents and also get a little bit more back for it, as
But
opposed to
what's the value you're getting from it? Like, I'm genuinely curious
probably
about
the
this
probably
because
the mill three, right?
yeah, but you're
Because
playing 19 lands, dude.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it has to just be like some a last ditch effort to like fill up your graveyard for these Murktide regions
I guess.
and
Yeah,
these
yeah,
murderous
okay, yeah,
cuts,
yeah.
right? It's like, yeah,
I,
I'll mill myself 3 and also kill something, and then wait, that sets up my Murktide, or that sets up my murderous cut the following turn.
okay.
Draw a card off my up the beanstalk.
I kind of see that actually. Yeah, the fact that you're milling because if it was just, I think just draw a card might be worse. No, I guess it's
Mm,
fine.
Close. I mean,
I don't know.
if Wither Room Command drew a card, let's be
If
honest.
if one of those modes was draw a card,
Yeah, it'd be
yeah,
nasty. No,
that'd be nasty.
it's random.
I'm looking at it, it's like surely you can play higher impact interaction, but no, the fact that it puts 3 cards in your bin and will draw a card, I guess most of the time in
I
that
think
it'll get a land back, especially if you played a fetch land. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also like that's a little bit of Brian's consideration to not playing any of these copies of Uro in his deck. He doesn't actually
Mm,
have any life gain, so like maybe there are some scenarios where it could be a little bit advantageous for him to choose the gain life. Whereas like your typical green blue control decks in Legacy, they kind of have access to Uro. He's decided to build his deck with the Murktides, so he doesn't really have access to any life gain. So I mean, it's a bit smaller, life gain not the most important thing in the format, but it's
I,
relevant.
sup- I suppose it comes back to what we were talking about before in terms of players really, really valuing flexibility, right? They
Totally.
want cards. They'll play cards that in a vacuum are less powerful if it gives them more options, more amount of the time. I'm not obviously Brian is so much better at Legacy than I will ever be. Right? It's just I look at this and I'm not saying it's wrong. I just want to know why. Right? I want to know I've got questions that I want answered about why this card is in the list. I'm not questioning it in the sense that I'm saying this shouldn't be in here. I'm questioning the sense it's like help me understand what the draw is to this card. Right?
Yeah,
So
no, that totally makes sense. I mean, I think you actually just like nailed it right there. There's so many cards in this Sultai Beans deck that are just dedicated removal spells or dedicated counter spells. We've got the
mm,
Fatal Pushes, we got the Murderous Cuts, we got the Children's Edict. Witherbloom Command, very flexible. When you have so much access to cards in a game, with the card advantage from the Up the Beanstalks, your Unrevealed, the card selection from the Ponder and the Brainstorms, it's really
mhm.
important to have cards that are like might be less powerful than any one card, but have a lot of different applications where they could possibly be used.
And I suppose this is the difference between a deck like this and the classic Jund archetype in Modern, where every single one of your cards needs to stand on its own. You can't have silver bullets, like you don't have specifically good cards, you have generically good cards. And that's because you're just at the mercy of what's ever on the top of your library. Whereas in a deck like this, with 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Up the Beanstalk, you can afford to have the one-ofs, the Stifle, the Spell Pierce, the Force of Negation, the Witherbloom Command, because you just naturally see more cards.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, let's open things up here. Avi, on turn number 1, exiling a Thalia, that's the 3-mana Thalia, the Heretic Cathar, to play an Anointed Peacekeeper here, but that's going to eat a Force of Will immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because you would probably be naming something like Forcible with the Peacekeeper to try to get through uh, a Dungeoneer or something like that. So
Hmm.
Brian kind of just deciding, yeah, I'd rather not. But it's looking like the Dungeoneer resolved anyways. So
So Avi's going to be able to go and get a basic at the very least. How many basics is he playing? Oh, just 3, not that many. 2 plains, one mountain.
I guess you
All right.
kind of like expect to win the game after going through the dungeon like an entire time. It's like, yeah, if you after you enter the dungeon and make it all the way through, like the
Mm.
amount of value you've got after all those turns, like you don't need to play that many basics.
Yeah, and you're not fetching them up either. There are no fetch lands in this list, so yeah. But speaking of fetch lands, Brian's going to go and get his Underground Sea here.
Pretty well.
And see what his plays. The Fatal Push now is such an efficient answer, man. I remember when Fatal Push came to Modern and the fact that like it just pushed all these 4-drops out of the format because you had such an efficient answer to them. And now we're kind of seeing that here. Like Avi got his value, certainly. So it's not the end of the world that this Dungeoneer dies, but paying 4 mana for something that just gets answered for 1.
Yeah, totally. I mean, luckily, if you're Avi, Brian doesn't have too many threats here. I would say last game he was a little bit fortunate to have like the turn 2 Orcish Bowmasters to really enter the dungeon himself, and come up with some sort of value. Avi doesn't have too many cards to worry about here. It's not like Brian is playing a bunch of Coatls. He doesn't have too many plays here that are actually going to gain him value and get him the initiative soon. So
This Thalia is pretty good. 3/2 first strike, creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So that's going to prevent Brian's mana from developing as swiftly as he would like. It's a nice little sort of blind obedience type effect that's also going to mean that blockers are less effective if Avi's really wanting to turn up the heat with attacks. Can't flash into Bowmasters and block 2 things.
yeah, totally. I mean, Thalia solid here. Gonna shut off Brian from using fetch lands later in the game and the mana at the same turn. And Avi also has the Caracas, so it's going to be a little bit hard for Brian to find like a clean answer to this Thalia.
Yes, because you can, of course, bounce your own legendary creature with the Caracas. All right, back over to Brian now as he flashes in that Orcish Bowmasters. Thinks about what he wants to do. It's a Dismember, but Avi's going to return it to hand. We foreshadowed that play just now, really. But it does mean that Brian gets in with the Orcish Bowmasters and is able to take the initiative without having to throw away the Bowmasters as he did last time.
Not a beautiful play if you're Brian. Like you don't love it, but I really understand it. It seems like it's possible that he needed the land drop this turn anyhow. So he figures I'm not really going to get too much value out of my Dismember as the game keeps going on. Avi is always going to have that option unless for some reason he decides to tap the Caracas, but it doesn't look very likely that he's going to. So,
and it does mean that Brian's not down a card. Oh, Wasteland now. Okay, he's not down a card, right? Because the attack replaced the Dismember with a basic. So it's not the disastrous play that it might seem at first glance. Removing your opponent into their removing your opponent's creature into their Caracas. But all right, we see the follow-up play now. The Caves of Chaos Adventurer. This one a 5/3 Trampler. Obviously, you take the initiative when it enters the battlefield, and when it attacks, exile the top card of your library. You can play it that turn, or if you've completed a dungeon, you can play it without casting without paying its mana cost. So, unlikely to come into play anytime soon, but all the same, here, Avi makes his way into the stash, creates a treasure token.
hey, and I mean, a 5/3, nothing too bad to look at here. Brian's just sitting here with a couple 1/1s, so
5/3 Trample as well, which is important in the face of those Orc army tokens.
true. Definitely
Is a
gonna be
Brainstorm.
getting some damage in.
It reminds me of the Cobble route. Whenever I see a high power, low toughness red creature,
True.
it's just this old card from Return to Ravnica that it was just so bad, but I lost to it so many times in draft.
Just getting brooded over and over again.
Lives getting it just hitting the cobbles. Lives rent free in my head. Sheoldred's Edict removes the cobble roots, and in come the Bowmasters once again, and we're seeing a good old fashioned fight over the initiative here between these two players. And now, as well, we're going to see one of these creatures grow to a quite a much more respectable size here as Brian heads to the forge.
Yeah, probably just grow this orc army.
No, it goes after the Bowmasters instead. Okay.
Let me think about this. I'm trying to think. Like, it just seems like Bowmasters is the more important one to have in play. So I was thinking, like, yeah, maybe we'll give our counters to the creature who we don't really mind losing. But
Hmm.
it seems like Brian has a different idea on how the game is going to play out. So I'm interested to see.
Heads to the trap. Target player loses 5 life.
It's a lot of life.
There's a lot of life. Is Avi down on 2? Oh yeah, that ancient tomb has been chipping away pretty swiftly here. Brian's just a very short distance away from winning this game here now. And a fatal push again on the Thalia. Avia just 2 life. That ancient tomb, not a well, he can activate it once. Won't go well for him. But here, Brian now, it feels like moments away from a dub.
So this is interesting. Brian tapping. Oh,
Oh
he
right,
sequenced it
okay,
wrong. So
yep,
he. Oh wait, he couldn't even sack.
yeah, yeah. So
Wait.
couldn't get revolt enabled in order to cast the fatal push here because um uh non basic lands will enter the battlefield tapped here.
Yep, Thalia just stopping
Yeah,
the push.
yeah.
Or sorry, the fetch land.
So it looks like there's a rewind now. Luckily, we weren't too far ahead of the game before. My goodness, look at the guy in the background, and Avi's screen's having a little dance. Look at him go.
Oh,
Oh no, he got shy. Sorry, no, mate, come back.
oh
We're
yeah,
enjoying it.
right.
We're
Yeah.
enjoying it. All right. It looks like while this gets resolved, we're gonna come back here and let's talk Noah about this Sultai Beans deck that we've seen here. Because Up the Beanstalk, obviously an undeniably powerful card. This is a card that's been banned out of Modern very recently. Typically, cards that are banned out of Modern, we see a lot of them do pretty well on Legacy. Euro, lots of other examples. So let's talk about what this deck is doing with that card. And I guess I'd like to get your thoughts more broadly about Up the Beanstalk in Legacy as another new powerful card advantage engine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that Brian's take on like how to gain advantage off of the beanstalk really really interesting. Going for Murktide Regent, going for Murderous Cut, really cool way as opposed to like going the white route. Um,
Hmm.
for leyline binding and stuff. It's really innovative. And like I said before, it's just there are so few legacy cards that actually offer you card advantage. We're used to so many of these cards just being card quality cards. So I think Up the Beanstalk is the new thing to do for any of these control decks because of the actual advantage that it grants you as opposed to just being good card quality.
And it is interesting seeing it open up all these new deck building avenues, like the Murderous Cut, right? Oh, and we see Avi pick up the Cobble Brute there, the old mate Caves of Chaos Adventurer, but it's not enough for him. Little regretful shake of the head there as Brian Coval takes out the game and the match. This guy is an absolute powerhouse at this format and Eternal formats more broadly. It's good to see him doing so very well. And Noah, the Sultai Beans deck picks up the win and increases his position. I think now he's picked up 1 loss. Is that right? I'm having a quick look over the standings. Brian
Yeah,
Coval moves to 8-1, I think.
really solid record after day one.
Hmm.
With a brew of all things. It's like, yeah, the green blue X control decks have existed for a long time in the format, but this one's really cool.
All right, we've got one more match to show you, but we're going to take a quick break, get that set up for you. Coverage of round 9 continues, my friends, after this, so stay with us. We'll be back from the Eternal Weekend in North America in just a few moments.